Yeah, I love OBS. Okay, cool. So you should have already downloaded the exercise. It is a specifically broken exercise for you to mess around with. There's a what to do. Oh no, why did I double click it? It's a text file, so it's going to open in Visual Studio, um, and it just tells you like what you need to do. Basically, the scene is broken and needs to be fixed. The actual source file of it is my animation. Like from ages ago that I made with a walk, idle, jump, hit, ground, and fall. It is broken specifically, and I'm gonna show you how to re-import it all over again from scratch. So for your models, you're gonna replace it with your models basically. So what this player consists of is just like it's not a character controller. I like created this from scratch. Why do I have two box colliders? I don't remember why. Oh, I think. Oh shit, that was one of the things I was supposed to make you fix. Sorry. Um, so I just have a really simple script in there. I don't think there's anything wrong with the script because it's not a coding class. I went and checked it. Like it's not the best script in the world, but it works. And there's just like a move force, jump force, and there's the max speed, which will cut off before the max speed. If I press play, this is what happens. Just jumps in. You can see it's like floating above the ground, and it does move when I tell it to move. And if I jump, it'll jump, but it doesn't go back. And you saw the jump is like ass. So these are all things that I would like you to fix. So the first things first is when you import the model to Unity, there's a bunch of different options. You'll come in as an FBX, right? Like always. Let's go through the different options. Do you remember the scale factor option? I remember the scale factor stuff. It's just literally like if I've brought it in too small, I can resize it in the scale factor. So when I drag it into the scene, it'll always be that scale factor. I don't have to drag it in, resize, drag it in, resize. You shouldn't really deal with that. Ideally, if you set up your max the same way we've done all semester, where it's like 1 meter, 1 meter, it should come in as 1 meter in Unity units, right? So it should be okay. There is an option to convert to Unity units as well. So right there, convert units. So in this case, the file was broken, so it's going to convert 1 inch to 0.0254 meters because the file came in as inches, so it's already a bad file when it came in. But you can still convert it. Unity sometimes does a decent job of it. Ideally, your stuff is made correctly, should come in fine. You shouldn't even need to worry about that. Blend shapes, you all remember the Morpher stuff we were doing? Where like there was, I made like a sphere and then I made like two warp versions and I could blend between them using the Morpher tool. That's what import blend shapes is. And then we have invisibility. That is, we don't, it's like mesh render stuff. If I turn it off, I think, does it disappear? I don't actually know. No, it doesn't do anything. So I don't need to worry too much about that. I have no cameras and no lights, so having them on or off, don't care. Preserve hierarchy is like if I group stuff in Max, you know the way you can like child stuff to other stuff, that'll preserve it, and it'll sort it by name. All this other stuff is all like stuff about for compression. I never use generate colliders because that'll do like a mesh collider and it's like pixel perfect to the collider and it doesn't animate, so let's not mess with that. Most of the other stuff you can just leave default and it should be fine. What is important is here in the rig, there are two different types of rigs. There's actually multiple different types of rigs, but in this, really there's only two. The Legacy is like an old school version for older imports, so we don't need to worry too much about that. We've got generic and humanoid. Humanoid is very specifically for humanoid, so like bipedal, 2 arms, 2 hands, movement, stuff like that. Anything else, if you have any like extra legs or a little limb extra or whatever, just go generic. And in fact, mine is a humanoid, but I'm just going to use generic anyway. The benefits to using humanoid is you can do something called like you can do IK in Unity, which means like if I have the animation to walk, it can recalculate. Say if I go up a step, the foot will like hit the step and actually um, contact the step, as opposed to if it was just animating, you would animate through the step. Does that make sense? So that would be the only real reason to use Humanoid. There's other solutions to do that, but just FYI, you can do that in Unity. As far as I know, up till now, it only works with humanoid characters to do that IK stuff. Everything else, just leave it generic. Then animation is the important part. So we obviously need to import animation. Yes. Resample curves is basically, is it going to compress them or is it going to just make it, again, that's on by default. If you're seeing problems, then turn off the resample curves, but usually it's fine. Animation compression, again, if you're working on a mobile game or something, you're trying to reduce the amount of space you're doing, you may want that on, but by default it's off. So you can see I have loads of clips up set up already. But if you do you all have your FBX handy for your Iron Giant? Okay, let's go with the export actually. All you need to do is select your Iron Giant, just the mesh, and once it's skinned, when you export, it already exports all the rigs and all the animations because they're all linked, they're skinned, so it's already linked to the mesh. So let's go over that. I'm going to bring in a brand new Iron Giant and do it from scratch. I'm now launching Max.
Can you please switch the screen? I'm waiting until it started.
Were you actually?
Yes.
Somehow I don't believe you. So this will be Max. Let's look for. Where is it? Choose Max. So tiny. What did I launch? But why is Alchemist launching? Away, Alchemist. Okay, you alright, buddy? How did I make it fit the screen again? Yeah, but I can't do it by like. Can I just do like fit screen? Yeah, there we go. Okay, so my Iron Giant. So this should be really quick. There's my Iron Giant. I'm just gonna export two of the animations. So I had what, the run cycle and the. So if you remember, start time was 0. I only did this much animation. So I had the start frame, which is nothing. Then I had the first idle was from 1 to 100, and then 101 to 150 was my run cycle. Right? You'd have to record this somewhere or write it down. That's the benefit of doing the layers method, where each layer is just one of the animations. But I like this method. So anyway, customize. Let's see, views, show me my tools. Sorry, let's see, explore. So all I need to do is select my Iron Giant. Doesn't matter if it's frozen or whatever. Just have that selected. File, export selected, and save it somewhere. Quick access, asset design. So Iron Giant underscore for Unity. Cool. And now I need to worry about my FBX. So smoothing groups, yes. Convert deforming dummies to bones, yes. Everything else is off. I do need animation on, obviously, because I need to have animation. So as long as I have animation turned on, it will export my cat rig and all the skinning and all the animations in it. So I'm take that on. You can bake the animation. So what baking is, it means, you know the way we lock the keyframe and it's locked there? What baking will do, it will lock every single frame. There's benefits to that. So sometimes if you're bringing in an animation and it's not moving, like say I'm moving up like that, right? But you import it and that arm, instead of doing this, it's going like that. You may want to bake it so then you know for sure it's exactly the same as it was in Max. Generally, this doesn't need to be done. There are definitely occasions when sometimes it can happen. The downside to baking is that you're adding an extra frame, so again, you're costing more. It's going to be a little more, a little bigger. And usually it's not a big problem, but like I recently worked on a project where I had to reduce. I think I talked to you about that last week, and it's surprisingly large. They're all tiny animations, but surprisingly, when you have loads of them, say when you have hundreds, it gets really big. So anyway, for this, let's turn off bake animation. Just see how it works. It should be okay. I definitely want deformations because that's deformation of the model is like when I move my bone, it's deforming the model. So I absolutely want it. Morphs were that stuff I showed you with the blend shape stuff. Those are morphs, also called blend shapes. I don't have any, but it's no harm to have it ticked on. And I definitely want skins because I have a skin that's skin to the bones. All this other stuff is animation reduction stuff. So you can have it on or not. It's just slightly more optimized. And then the characters, cat characters is HIK. It'll convert the cat character we have to can't remember what it says. IK stands for inverse kinematics, but I can't remember what H stands for. That's fine. And then we just export. It's always going to give you errors. Every time we use cat rigs, it'll always give you these errors. Don't attack on the matrix, unsupported controllers. What do we do for errors? As long as you don't break anything. Yeah, we don't care. As long as it works, we don't care. Then we go into Unity. Import that. Show you how it imports in. So that should be asset side 19. Iron Giant for Unity. Cool. And there it is. So the model stuff, remember, I'm leaving it. This unit was made correctly. 1 meter to 1 meter. Yay. So that's why I don't need to do any scale factor stuff. If I bring it in. Oh, it's tiny. But I don't know how big the scene is actually. The cube is, oh, it's 80. Yeah, it's huge. So I can also convert it here, if you remember, and apply, and it's 10. And doing it at the scale factor here means that it's not gonna, it'll scale all the animations to match as well, so it's much better. But anyway, let me undo that. So I'm leaving everything else the same. My rig is automatically generic. Avatar automatically creates from the model. All the root node stuff, I can select a root node, so I can tell it to do the cat rig pelvis, because that's my root node. That's the node which all the others come from. What a root node is useful for, we're not going to do it today, but what it is useful for is allowing it to move according to the animation. So which means if I move my speed, like I put my feet there, it's going to move the whole character exactly the same speed. It'll move it in space. Do you know what I mean? Like you know, have you ever seen where a character is animating, moving around, but the animation is like too slow or too fast for the movement that it's doing? Root motion solves that, so it'll move it only with the speed of the animation. Right, so again, that's another thing which we're not doing today, but if you want to, you can ask tell a programmer to do it. It is important to know that. So that's fine. Apply that shit. Animations here. So by default, it just shows me take 001. It's just like an animation take, like a movie take. And it shows me the entire animation, 0 to 150. Now I know for a fact that 0 is my reference frame, so I don't care about it. So I'm going to set my first animation. It was 1 to 100, and it was called idle. Let's have a look and see if that works. I do want it to loop, so I will turn on loop time. Because I turned on the root transformation stuff, I can all these options are set up where I can bake into pose and control all that stuff. But actually, do you know what? I'm going to turn off root animation just for that.
Oh, change back to Unity.
What?
Recording.
Oh, tab. Come on.
I had one job.
One job. Just oh, is this a display capture? Oh no, I'm not even sure if it.
Was it recording? No, it isn't.
I don't know. We'll find out when it's uploaded. So I'll just change back to. Sorry, where's Unity? So small. Cool. Come on. What?
Oh my god.
Oh, Mac was up. Oh, so it was recording. That's fine. So we're back to Unity. Okay. I'll rename. I don't know why it's hidden up there. So Unity. Cool. It does, but just it was hidden. Like the max one wasn't there, right? A second ago. I didn't see it. It was display in window cap. It was. Was it tree? Oh, so I missed it. Anyway, it's back. It's fine. Yay. Where was I? This one. So yeah, the idle, and then I can press play here to see it. Okay, see that jerk? That jitter there when it loops? That sometimes happens. Now, it's not always. I'm actually glad it happened so I can show you the issue. But it is occasionally, usually most of the time, you bring it in, animates no problem. 1 to 100 animates, grand. Sometimes it causes this issue. So in this case, we need to do a loop pose, an additive reference pose. Let's check. Nope. So I'll start it maybe. We know the problem is when it loops here. So it's a frame 1. I'm going to start at frame 2 and do a pose frame at 99. Is that working better? Nope, not at all. End frame at 99. Pose frame at 90. Basically, I'm just shrinking the animation a little bit to try and keep it within, so that hopefully it's not being affected by other side. Okay, much better. Right? No, because frame 0 was my completely straight, if you remember. So it's not that. Sometimes people forget that frame 0 is that, and then that's the reason why, because they're also taking the reference frame. But in this case, it's not. So basically, I just made it shorter. Instead of 1 to 100, I just shrank it to 99, and then I added a pose frame here that's like just 1 frame less than 99. So it'll just go through and it kind of shrinks it a bit so it doesn't get affected by the ones on the side. It's just a little trick. But that works fine. And then we'll go to, this was a run, wasn't it? And this is from 101 to 150. It's also looping. We'll turn off the reference for this one. Just want to see how it works first. Run, press play. And that one doesn't seem to need, you see any jerky? Looks fine. So in this case, it does. So it is perfect. I actually didn't mean for this to happen, but it's a great example. Sometimes it's fine, just leave it. And then you just apply. And what you'll see here is the same as when we created animations in first year. Those animations appear here, and they can be dragged into an animator. So set up an animator, drag them in, and they'll set up. All right. So what I'd like you to do for an exercise, we'll see how far we get, is to go in, import your model, break up the animations, cut them up, set up an animator in that scene that I gave you, and you can just child it to that player. So what this player is doing, it's got some physics on it. It's got like a 3D character movement script, and this is just childed to it and just has an animator on it. I don't remember. I think this is just a public animator. You can just drag it in. So you just drag in the animator from below. Always do this. Always. I've seen like very experienced people not do this, and it causes them loads of problems down the line. Code separate to the visuals. So don't have, like, the player itself, the player that I'm having here doesn't rotate, doesn't flip around, doesn't do whatever, it just stays a capsule. You can see it when I play because of the scene. Oh, sure, sorry. It is, I need to move it from here. It doesn't rotate. See, you can tell by the box is not rotating. So it's only rotating the child, which is the actual animation of visuals. The reason for that is then you don't need to recalculate physics. Like if I turn, this happened to one of the fourth year projects. If I'm turning the entire project, now I need to recalculate all my vectors for where I'm aiming. So just keep it the same. Unless there's a specific reason why you actually need to rotate the code bit, just leave it. So that doesn't move. The child moves. Really, it's just being moved around, doesn't rotate, but the child is rotating to face the direction of travel. Okay, so it looks like the character's moving. Makes stuff a lot easier. And even if you don't do that, even if you rotate the parent or whatever, if you decide you have to, again, still keep it separate. Keep all the code on one layer, all the visuals on another layer. Makes it much easier for troubleshooting and for issues to happen. Okay. So everyone clear what to do? Spicy. Depending on how fast we finish, if we can finish in time, we can talk about your first character, because I'd like us to do a practice character before we move on to actual the full thing. Because we've done animation on a robot, but you haven't built a character yet, either a robot or a human. humanoid character. There's multiple different ways to do it. So depending how fast we finish, I'll talk about that, and then we can start beginning to build one. Next week we'll try to complete building that character. By then you'll know how to rig and animate, and that'll be like part of your assignments. And then we'll go on to the final bit, which is a cinematic. That cool? Cool. Let's go.